30 seconds and counting. 25 seconds and counting. We are still go. 20 seconds. Guidance alert. The guidance system now going internal. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Evening to my viewers in Europe and Africa. Good afternoon to viewers in the Western Hemisphere, and good very early morning to viewers in the Pacific Rim. And welcome to the Angry Astronaut, to a special live stream broadcast that was announced kind of at the last second, and that's because that's how Blue Origin did this announcement. They are going to try to get New Glenn off the ground while they have an opportunity. But really glad to have you folks here. Make sure to check in from where you are watching from. We have Denmark already here, and a large crowd already growing. A large crowd by my standards compared to how these sorts of broadcasts used to go. We got Houston checking in. Really appreciate you checking in today. And four marks, hello. And hello, Northern Ireland and New York City. Thanks so much for being here. Hello, Megan from the Netherlands and India. Thanks very much. And British Columbia and Scotland. Hello, North Central Texas and Nottinghamshire and Brazil. Thanks very much for being here today. Yeah, it was not a note. There's no notices at all. Just Blue Origin said a few hours ago they're going to go. Hello, Finland. Thank you so much, Robert. $25 from Valdosta, Georgia. It's Airborne Bob is back with us. Ontario and Ashland, Massachusetts, Central Florida, South England. We got Manchester. We got California and East Sussex. We have Wales and West Texas. We have Florida, and we have Arkansas. Really appreciate you guys watching today, again, from all over the world as usual. The reason we have, in my opinion, this last second announcement from Blue Origin, and this real quick, and by the way, we are less than 30 minutes away from liftoff. They are really pushing to get this thing off the ground. The reason I think that we have this going on is because the solar storm has died out. It pushed into today because there was actually a huge coronal mass ejection. As a matter of fact, it was the biggest solar storm of the year, created a lot of disruption. In addition, the astronauts on the International Space Station had to change their sleeping arrangements into areas that were more sheltered from solar radiation, even though they're largely protected by the Earth's electromagnetic field in low Earth orbit. There's still a lot more exposed to radiation up there than we are down here. So they had to move their sleeping arrangements, and then we had this cancellation of the launch. This solar storm, the biggest of the year, one of the biggest solar storms on record, actually really caused a lot of disruption with our technology and our civilization. But now, and then there was another follow-up, kind of residual coronal mass ejection that hit today, which sort of continued the storm. However, the solar radiation has dropped off now considerably. And in my opinion, John Morgan, thank you so much for the tenor. Really, really appreciate that. So as a result, since the solar radiation has dropped off, and I think there's also a hole in the weather, an opportunity weather-wise to go for this. Blue Origin decided, I think, at the 11th hour that they're gonna take a shot at this while they have the opportunity, because that could change at any time. You could have another solar storm, for example, given how active the sun is. We have had 25% of all the major solar storms this year have happened over the last 3 weeks. Um, Enormous amount of solar activity at the moment. And to Nim, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate, your support as well. We really appreciate the super chats that we have coming in right now. So, yeah, um, it is it's interesting, and yeah, I think, once again, I think they're going for it right now because they have opportunity. They have an opening that they want to take advantage of, both in terms of solar radiation and in terms of the weather. So here we go. The ESCAPADE mission, once again, is a mission, ironically, or maybe appropriately, to investigate Mars and to study the solar wind, to study the effects that the solar wind has on Mars' atmosphere and how the solar wind may have stripped away the atmosphere over time and continues to strip away the atmosphere to this day, which is a challenge that's going to face any effort to try to colonize the planet. Because even though it doesn't have much of an atmosphere, the atmosphere that it does have is still very important. Thanks very much, Carl, for the tenor. Really, really appreciate your support. Thanks so much. The reason for that is, as thin as Mars' atmosphere is, it still provides a considerable amount of protection from solar radiation. The radiation levels on the surface of Mars are still far less intense than the solar radiation levels are in interplanetary space. Mars' atmosphere still provides a considerable amount of protection. We're talking about 10 times the difference here, roughly. If you were on the surface of Mars for 20 years, you would actually have a chance of surviving that. 20 years in interplanetary space, assuming that you had oxygen and all that, you'd be dead anyway from all the being bombarded by all of that radiation. Jovian, 50 quid. My God. Thank you so much. Wow. What a generous donation. Really, really appreciate that, Jovian. Thank you so much. And the adventurous, thank you so much. So we're going to go ahead. Producer, is Blue Origin live yet? Okay, so Blue Origin does not have any commentators on yet, so we're gonna go ahead and continue to wait. The countdown, it should be at about 24 minutes, 23 minutes, something along those lines. We're still very close to liftoff right now. Once again, they really moved on this quickly. The refueling process the fueling process, that is, for New Glenn is complete already. They've already completed the process. So yeah, we are we are definitely looking at an aggressive move to get this rocket and payload off the ground today. Um, Very aggressive move on the part of Blue Origin. I definitely like that. I approve of aggressiveness because they don't show that level of aggressiveness very often. They have this philosophy, step by step, ferociously. I always used to think that that meant step by step and we do nothing, because they took many, many years to finally get New Glenn off the ground. They really didn't seem to be making any sort of appreciable progress. So I was very hard on them for years, simply because they were bidding on government contracts, especially military contracts, that sort of thing, as if they were a company that had already sent missions to orbit, that had already sent missions to space. They hadn't. The best they had done is the New Shepard missions, which barely get past the common line. They really hadn't accomplished anything tremendous until now. because New Glenn, even though it's only flown once, it flew into a very aggressive trajectory way above low Earth orbit. They deployed a payload with it. New Glenn had a really good first flight. Of course, the booster did not successfully land, but kind of expected that on the first flight. As far as I think we got Blue Origin is starting to go live now. Just so we can be clear about that, I think we have music going at the moment, though. We're going to wait on that for just a second, and then once the music stops, then we will go ahead and bring Blue Origin coverage to you. Although I don't think it's going to be a lot different than what we saw a couple of nights ago. But let's go ahead and bring up Blue Origin to you live now.
It is going to open at 2:57 p.m. Eastern Time and conclude about 90 minutes later, plus or minus, at 4:25 p.m.
Now, right now, let's take you out to a live look at New Glenn on the pad at Launch Complex 36.
Oh, rocket's looking beautiful.
Stunning.
Beautiful day to launch. A little bit different than our weather on Sunday when we tried. Now, for today's launch, NG2, we have two goals, two objectives. First is to safely deploy the payload, which is NASA's ESCAPADE, which is heading out on a mission to Mars.
And the second is to land the booster for the first time. Now, if we don't land the booster, that's okay. We have several vehicles already in production right behind us. But now we're hearing it's about time for that go, no-go poll. So let's toss it over to the rocket and listen in.
OSM.
OSM is go.
RC.
RC is go.
ESR.
ESR go.
AC.
AC is go.
Recovery.
Recovery is go.
PLI.
PLI is go.
BMD.
BMD is go.
GC, LC1, LC2 initiate final configurations for terminal count. Report when ready for pre-terminal count gate checks.
GC cut.
LC2 copies.
LC1 copy. LC1 ready.
All right, you heard it there. We are go for terminal count. You heard Launch Director Megan Lewis, and she's been a great asset, of course, to our team. And I know we are all so excited in these final moments. So let's bring in our third member of our Blue Origin team, Eddie Seyfert. Eddie, you were standing by with employees here at Rocket Park. What's the vibe? Oh, well, yeah, I can already hear what the vibe is at that viewing party.
Hey, Tabitha, hey, Ariane, we're so here. We're so happy to be here. Rocket Park is go.
NG2, NG2.
That's right, NG2. That's
I
right.
love
Let's
it.
go Blue.
Eddie,
Escapade.
what kind-
Escapade. Yes, tell me.
What kind of view do you have? Where's the rocket with respect to where you are right now?
Rocket is downrange 9 miles. It's a clear, sunny day in Florida. We've got a great view, and we're very excited to be here.
Oh, that is so great, Eddie. It's so great to see so many employees, just some of the 10,000 employees that are here at Blue Origin who worked on this rocket and worked for this moment. Now, Eddie, really quickly, I have to ask you, a big part of what we do here, and I'm sure a lot of the people behind you have worked on, are our engines. Can you share a little bit more about the engines that are going to be working hard today?
Yeah, Tabitha, look, the upper stage, 2B3U's mega Delta V, mega performance. And the aft section, 7B4s, 3.85 million pounds of thrust, but we're going to be louder.
You certainly are. And of course, Rocket Park is just one of our many locations. We've also got our crews, our Team Blue, down in Texas at Launch Site 1. We've got people out in Kent, and we've got people in DC, in Denver, in Los Angeles, all across the United States, and it is so great to have everyone together for today. So thank you so much, Eddie. And of course, engines, a big part of what we do here at Blue Origin.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, Our Jackie Cortez got the chance to talk to Nick Robertson about how engines are the foundation of our operations at Blue.
Nick, thanks for being here today.
This year was continuing to increase our production rate, both for our B4
Okay,
engines,
we've got
you know,
music
3U
here. Unfortunately, copyright background music, but yeah, it is in obviously the BE7 is the key part of the New Glenn rocket, and clearly one thing that Blue Origin needs to face is they need to start manufacturing these things in much greater numbers than they've been manufacturing them in the past. SpaceX has demonstrated an ability, and they've been able to do this for a long time now, of churning out engines like crazy. They can outproduce everybody when it comes to engines. But the BE7 is very important, not just to Blue Origin, but also to ULA, because the ULA Vulcan Centaur also runs off of the Blue Origin BE4. And that means that they really need to make sure that they can manufacture these in large numbers. Granted, there are only 2 BE4 engines on every Vulcan Centaur. The vast majority of the initial boost, anyway, that particular rocket gets is delivered by solid rocket boosters and not by the engines. But still, for the long-term burn that's necessary to get the rocket into higher orbits, higher trajectories, etc., those BE7s do the job, and BE4s rather do the job, and they're going to need a lot of those because they have a lot of missions coming up. LA has a huge number of missions, especially for the Kuiper constellation of satellites. They're launching more Kuipers than anybody else, so it's pretty important that they keep that they increase the manufacture of those engines. Okay, back to Blue Origin.
And follow along with us. First, we have 7 BE4 engines that will lift New Glenn off the pad with 3.8 million pounds of thrust.
So then New Glenn will eventually go supersonic, and right at about 40,000 feet or 12 kilometers up, New Glenn is going to reach what's called max Q, or maximum dynamic pressure. This is when the stress on the vehicle is at its highest. So if we punch through that, we're feeling pretty good about this launch. At about 3 minutes into flight, the engines are going to turn off, marking the end of the boost phase, and the reusable first stage is going to begin its journey back to Earth.
Right, the booster will reorient itself using the reaction control system. There will be a re-entry burn, and then the autonomous system will guide the booster.
All right, we have music. I apologize. We have music there. I completely missed that. We have some copyrighted music that was going. They're playing it in the background. That was very frustrating. They're like trying to surprise us with these with this background music stuff. I apologize for that. I have to admit, this is getting irritating because usually they only play copyrighted music during particular pieces, particular little bits about, different technology, the engines or reusability, that sort of thing. And man, now they're just running it all the time. So in any event, apologize for that, but we're going to get shut down for trying to run copyrighted music. Um, so we need to make sure that we try to stay on top of that. And of course, our awesome producer is doing this. We are down to just over 8.5 minutes to lift off. There are some huge milestones that theoretically could be set here today. If this is highly unlikely, I really don't think that Blue Origin is going to be able to successfully land their booster on the second attempt. If they manage to do it, they will have landed the largest reusable rocket on a barge of any company in history, even though SpaceX has landed the Starship Super Heavy booster with the chopstick, which is an incredible accomplishment on all kinds of levels. The New Glenn booster is very big, much bigger than the boosters on the Falcon 9s. Of course, Falcon Heavy just uses Falcon 9 boosters. So if it does manage to set down successfully, then that means, Blue Origin will seize that crown for having landed the largest booster on a barge in history. And quite a complicated and difficult thing to land vehicles downrange, especially if they're very, very big boosters. And keep in mind, New Glenn is comparable in size, a little bit smaller, but not much smaller than Saturn V. So this is a big booster. It's going to be extremely challenging trying to land this thing on the Jacqueline barge. Let's go ahead and bring Blue Origin back now that they're not
and
running
Eddie,
music.
Your nickname is Engine Eddie.
Yep.
Not a lot of people know. He actually helped lead the test stand for the BE4 engine down in West Texas. You want to talk a little bit about those beautiful BE4s that are going to be doing the ascent, but also the descent as we come in to land this booster for the first time ever?
No, thank you, Ariane. A quick shout out to the folks at Launch Site 1 in West Texas at the Geek Stand, the Zeke Stand, and the Veek Stand. I really miss being out with those folks because we get to test rocket engines every day, right? So BE4 is a medium performing version of a high performance architecture, and the teams at the test stand have been squeezing out more thrust, more performance, and so we're going to see some of that here today. For BE3U, it actually started with our BE3 engine that flies New Shepard. Then we upgraded it to 160,000 pounds of thrust. We actually flew it at 174,000 pounds of thrust for its first flight. And so that upgrade path is going to continue. And we're very lucky that we can test at our test stand in West Texas, at our test stand at Marshall Space Flight Test Stand 4670 in California, and that we can test like we fly so that we're fully confident going into today's mission.
Awesome. Thank you, Eddie, for that. Tabitha, I'll just say it's a big day for the BE4 because not only is New Glenn launching today, 7 of these BE4s, but United Launch Alliance is our customer. They also have a launch today. Not today, BE4s are not flying with ULA, but we want to give our customer there a shout out for their launch as well.
Well, speaking of customers, let's talk about ESCAPADE for a second. We have just enough time. We're awaiting that final terminal count coming out at T-4. But ESCAPADE is a pair of these twin satellites, and it's doing something really unique, something that it hasn't done. I had the opportunity actually earlier to talk to Dr. Joe Westlake. Earlier in the week, I got to talk to Dr. Nikki Fox, and two big things happening that have never happened before. We are launching in a window that you would normally not launch in to make it to Mars. Normally, you have this tight window that you have to launch in, but right now, those satellites are going to go up, and they're essentially going to go into this kind of coast phase until it's time for them to launch. And the second thing, for the first time ever, two different satellites are going to be orbiting Mars and learning more about the atmosphere, and that is going to get us into such a special place when it comes to what we understand about the Martian atmosphere, eventually sending, of course, more robots and eventually humans to Mars. So very exciting to have ESCAPADE and NASA be our customers today for NG2. All right, So finally, it's that time I was so excited about, to listen in for that final go, no-go poll as we move through the final steps before launch and we inch towards terminal count. Let's listen.
T-minus 3:59.
TCS active. AFSA safety timer started.
AFSS safety timer started.
Three and a half minutes. It's looking very promising, guys.
News for you. We are in terminal count. They did the final go, no-go poll. New Glenn is ready to launch, and we've transitioned into that terminal count. Now, from here on out,
3 minutes.
We'll be hearing from our flight ops, Patrick Moore.
And from here, the vehicle is also running fully autonomously on software. So our engineers are hands off. They've got their eyes on their screens, but the rocket is in control of itself at the moment.
Yeah, right now they're continuing to condition the propellants on the second stage using chilled helium. You can tell the rocket is nice and cool. And this will continue for another minute or so and helps prep the liquid oxygen and liquid nitrogen that powers the BE-3Us.
Oh, liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. Sorry, that is for the upper stage.
That's right.
And then also on the first stage, we've got. Oh, hold on a second. There's Kent. Hello, Kent. They're ready for a rocket launch here at T-minus 2 minutes to go to launch. One interesting thing to watch here, a couple of things. One is that the 7 engines start in a stagger start. So we've got 3 of the engines that'll start, and then the other 4 engines that start just a second later. We want to make sure that we don't jostle the rocket or jostle the infrastructure too much. The other thing, the thing that you will visibly be able to see that we are go is when we start that big water. You see the big water tower on your left?
That's right.
We are going to flood the base of the launch pad with the water. It helps dampen the vibrations and the heat because, again, we want to make sure that we protect the launch pad, but also the rocket
90
itself.
seconds.
Here.
And a huge shout out, of course, to Van Horn, to Kent, to Huntsville, Alabama, and our friends here at Rocket Park. We are now, I have gotten the notification, we are on internal power. This is so exciting, Ariane. This is the moment. So that means we've transitioned from ground power to the vehicle's own internal
Here we go,
power.
guys.
We're getting really close here. T-minus 1 minute.
T-minus
60 seconds.
Range green. AFSS flight enabled.
Here we go, guys. A lot at stake here for Blue Origin,
Hydraulics
for
are
Rocket
started
Lab,
up
for
on the
NASA,
forward
and
half.
for our
You might
exploration
start to
of
see the
Mars.
engines gimbal a bit here.
Godspeed,
They're gonna
Blue
move back
Origin and
forth,
New
make sure
Glenn. Godspeed,
they are,
Escapade.
nice and clear. And we're going to wait here for the big water. Let's turn it back over to mission control. Let's light this candle. Go, New Glenn.
T-minus 30
Now
seconds.
tell me the odds.
Can't wait to see this booster back on Earth.
GS1 hydraulics internal. GS1 at flight level. GS2 at flight level. Hold.
We're at hold. We're at hold, a 20-second hold.
All right, as we've seen here, our team has decided to go into a hold at
20-second
T-minus 20
hold.
seconds.
Something happened.
Let's wait to learn just a little bit more here.
Auto safing complete.
Thank you again, everybody. If you're just joining us, we are awaiting here NG2, the second mission of New Glenn. We're at T-minus 20 seconds. Our team has decided to enter a hold here. We've said it on other webcasts before. We spend years designing this rocket, months building it, months designing the missions. If we need a couple of minutes to make sure that the rocket is ready, that our team is ready, that everything on the range is ready,
that's right,
then we will take that time.
At this moment in time, I do have a statement that says that terminal
Look at
count
how huge
aboard
that
the team is
fairing is
currently
compared to the
investigating.
size of the payload.
Right now, you've got to look inside of GS2. You can see our twin satellites. I believe that's ESCAPADE, correct?
That is ESCAPADE. They're ready for its launch to space, to Mars. It's going to have to wait just a couple more minutes here, obviously. There you see the base of the rocket, the 7 BE-4 engines.
Pretty sure they're going to reset this timer. We'll see where they reset it to, assuming that they go at all. I heard the sound of the deluge system powering up. The engines for the deluge system were beginning to power up, but I didn't see any water. That's one thing that I found to be a little curious. I was wondering if there's a malfunction with the deluge system. Then again, though, the deluge system wouldn't go if there anything else had delayed the launch. So probably a bad guess there. Frustrating. Oh, we got a D
All right,
tank.
if you're just joining us, this is NG2. We are at T-minus 20 seconds.
That's sounding like a D tank.
Because we had a terminal count abort.
I don't know yet.
Like I said, is
We'll
currently
see.
investigating. So while everything is getting sorted out, we're going to toss it back over to NG2 on the pad and give you more information as it becomes available to us.
No, it doesn't look like they're detanking. Maybe they are. There's a D-tank. It's over, guys. Now we got music again. Boy, that's frustrating. Okay, so we'll make sure to keep you on top of this regardless. I don't know if they're... I don't know exactly what's going on here. That doesn't look like a D-tank to me. So I don't think they're giving up on it just yet. Obviously, if they detank, then that's pretty much it for the day. Something happened that they're going to need to investigate thoroughly. So that being said, we obviously don't want to be too much of a naysayer at this point. We may recycle the count, in which case they'll probably reset it to 4 minutes, be my guess. Then restart the countdown at that point, assuming that they can rectify whatever issues exist here. Again, this is the brand new rocket, second flight of this thing, so it's going to have glitches, no question about that. And Blue Origin errs on the side of caution, especially if they have a paying customer on board. So obviously, this is sort of thing that we run into in this industry a lot. Covering this industry and covering rocket launch as well. You get accustomed to this sort of thing. It happens all the time. We shall see. Once again, it kind of sounded like that there was a D tank, but just to be clear, to let you know what a D tank is, I think we've also got Anton Nim who's explaining it. When you offload all the propellant, once you know that a rocket isn't going to go, you want to get that propellant out of the rocket as quickly as possible, because having all of that explosive stuff under high pressure is not a good thing if you're not going to lift off. So a D tank is a very good sign that there's a scrub going on. And I've seen D tanks in person, and I've seen them obviously during moments when I'm covering launches like I'm doing here. And they're always very disappointing when they happen. Very, very disappointing when they happen. So once again, to be clear, we don't have a detank at the moment. We have a hold at 20 seconds. Obviously, some technical issue transpired at the last moment, and it would have to have been an automated issue because the rocket was under its own control at that point. So the rocket must have made a decision to halt the count. The rocket detected some sort of issue, some sort of problem that had to be accounted for an immediate stop. So yeah, that's where we are at present, is at a T-20 hold as Blue Origin tries to rectify this situation, and it would be extremely, extremely disappointing. We just lost our clock, guys. We just lost the clock. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's done. It could be just deciding where they're going to recycle it. But at the same time, no clock is not a good sign usually. So this might be a scrub, although I'm not prepared to make a guess on that just yet. It is possible that they're going to simply recycle the clock. So let's not give up on it yet, guys. Continue. The question, do I have time to make coffee? If they recycle it, they're going to recycle it to 4 minutes probably. So you might have time, but I don't know. I'd be hesitant. Okay, bear with me for just a moment. I'm seeing if there's anything else that I can learn from what's going on. Bear with me for just a moment here. Blue Origin is usually not very forthcoming about issues that crop up. Well, let's see. Team is investigating, and that's it. As of 6 minutes ago, Blue Origin announced terminal count abort, and then an investigation, but that's about it. Once again, we can go ahead and to talk about something that they wouldn't discuss on this coverage from Blue Origin. You'll notice that the Blue Origin commentators never ever mention Rocket Lab. They never mention the fact that Rocket Lab built those spacecraft. And on the reverse side, very seldom, if ever, when Rocket Lab is talking about Escapade, are they going to mention Blue Origin. These companies are seriously at odds with each other. And Peter Beck, the billionaire owner of Rocket Lab, founder of Rocket Lab, is very much at odds with Jeff Bezos, billionaire owner of Blue Origin. It's like these billionaires just can't get along with each other. So in any event, fingers crossed, we're hoping that we get a launch here. I'll subscribe when it launches. That's funny. I'll get a subscription out of you eventually because it will launch at some point, but maybe not today. I don't like the fact that we don't have a clock. That could be a sign of recycling it, but then again, it could be something else. I don't like the look of that. The fact that it's been sitting there for this amount of time without them recycling the count to a point to where they would be comfortable with recycling it to 4 minutes, presumably. If they were gonna recycle the count, they would put that number up there and just wait until the problem's rectified and then proceed. That's usually the process. However, it's important to note that Blue Origin might do differently. There's only one successful launch of New Glenn. That went pretty smoothly. Um, so this one
focus and talk a little bit more about Escapade and how it's going to help scientists learn more about the atmosphere on Mars.
Our friends over at NASA put together this great explainer on the importance of Escapade. Let's take a look.
Mars. Once a warm, watery world with a thick atmosphere.
All right, so we're back
Now-
to copyrighted music here as far as that's concerned, but it's a really, really important mission here. I mean, I wouldn't say that this is by far NASA's biggest Mars mission ever or anything like that, because it is considerably less expensive than a lot of the others. They're not landing spacecraft on the surface of Mars or anything like that. But understanding Mars atmosphere and especially how it interrelates with the solar wind is really, really critical. Given how active the sun has been this year, chances are Mars' atmosphere is taking a beating this year. And so we need to get an understanding of just how serious that damage is going to be over time and what that means for a long-term presence on the Martian surface. Although it's not NASA's stated objective to set up a colony there where people are going to be expected to live there for years at a time, 5, 10 years, or perhaps even the rest of their lives. But Elon Musk most definitely wants to do that. So that being the case, we need to get a better understanding of Mars' atmosphere and its interrelation with the solar wind, and how much of an impact the solar wind and solar radiation has not only on the atmosphere, but also on what the atmosphere protects on the Martian surface. As thin as Mars' atmosphere is, it still provides a considerable amount of protection from radiation. The radiation levels on the surface of Mars are much, much less than the radiation levels in interplanetary space. They're still, of course, very high, dangerously high. You wouldn't want to be sitting unprotected on the Martian surface for years at a time. That would probably not be very good for your health, but still, the Martian atmosphere does provide a lot more protection than you get in interplanetary space. And that being the case, our understanding of just how effective that protection is. How much does that protection drop off year in and year out? How much does that protection get stripped away by active periods in the sun's history, like the one that we're going through right now? And again, Rocket Lab built these things. Rocket Lab was responsible for the construction of these things, and then, of course, Blue Origin is launching them, and this is an incredibly cheap mission. Overall, about $70 million, which I'm pretty certain, I think it's closer to 80. Nevertheless, between the cost of the construction of the spacecraft, the mission planning, and of course, the cost of launching it, that is a very, very inexpensive launch. Very, very inexpensive mission compared to most interplanetary missions. So we're still sitting with no cycle countdown yet. Continue with investigation. So let's see what happens. For those of you, I've seen some questions about 3i Atlas. 3i Atlas is going entirely the opposite way from where Escapade is going. 3i Atlas left Mars behind a long time ago, and it's going to be making its way out towards Jupiter. It will pass relatively close, approximately 3/10 of an astronomical unit or so away from Jupiter. It would have been great to divert the Juno probe, that currently is orbiting Jupiter, away from its duties there, simply because its duties are essentially over anyway. Oh, we got a reset. Oh, dear God. We have a reset of over 30 minutes. Okay, I think you got plenty of time to make coffee. I thought they would recycle it to 4 minutes or so. We have a recycle to more than half an hour. That being the case, folks, I'm gonna make myself some coffee, and I will be back shortly.
time. Now, while we have a little bit of time and you see New Glenn out on the pad in all of the New Glenn glory, that rocket is, we have to talk about what is sitting in GS2, and that is ESCAPADE. Now, I actually had the opportunity and the honor to catch up with Dr. Joe Westlake to talk about solar weather effects and how that can affect satellites and what we can expect from the deployment of ESCAPADE. Dr. Joe Westlake, heliophysicist at NASA. We are so honored. Let's talk about heliophysics.
Yeah, so really excited to be here, really excited to see the ESCAPADE launch go up, really jazzed. And heliophysics, right? So heliophysics is an interesting word. It's fascinating because, you know, one, it doesn't exist in the dictionary yet, which is really an interesting thing. We hit our slang era in heliophysics. Merriam-Webster actually just picked it up. But heliophysics is like the science of the sun and everything that it touches. So when we think about ESCAPADE, folks would say, well, like, what does heliophysics have to do with some Mars mission? Why do we care about what the sun does to Mars? Well, you know, ESCAPADE is a space weather mission. We're going out to ensure and protect the space weather effects on Mars, on our astronauts, on our spacecraft that are there at Mars. And as we saw over the last couple of days, space weather is kind of a big deal,
It certainly is. Can you kind of talk about how space weather affected our launch?
Yeah, so hopefully folks over the last couple of days got to see some really pretty, like, light.
The Aurora Borealis, as they call it.
Just incredible, right?
Stunning.
You know, we saw across the U.S., even down here at the Florida at the Space Coast.
Space Coast, yeah.
Right, we saw a red aurora sat over top of our rocket. And that's really cool, like, that's a pretty light show. But what that really means is that the magnetosphere is kind of angry, right? It's got a lot of energetic particles that have come in from the sun, right? A coronal mass ejection came in, multiple coronal mass ejections came in from the sun, and they pushed into our magnetosphere, creating, you know, space radiation that can cause issues for our spacecraft, which, of course, you know, in the early days of any mission, they're a little bit fragile, right? It's sort of early days. We want to get the solar arrays deployed. We want to get the mission up and ready to go and safely out to Mars. And those early activities are really critical for us.
Certainly. So for people who don't know, tell me a little bit more about the heliophysics tied in to ESCAPADE.
Yeah, so, you know, when we go out to Mars, right, we're looking at how space weather, how the solar wind, how these coronal mass ejections and flares impact the Martian atmosphere, how they impact Mars as a system, how they impact and change how, you know, atmospheric escape happens at Mars.
Because Mars doesn't have the same atmosphere that we do here on Earth, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's always been a big question, right? When I look at the difference between our beautiful planet here on Earth and the water and the oceans and other things, why is Mars so different, right? There's a great question that relates to how Mars's atmosphere has escaped over the years, over the decades, over the millennia. And ESCAPADE's actually going to deliver to us a better understanding of whether the atmospheric escape changes in time or changes in space, right? And so getting that feeling and getting that understanding will let us figure out how Mars has changed over its history and be able to conserve and understand how that applies to us here at Earth.
And for the first time, we have a lot of firsts, actually. So we have 2 satellites that are deploying that are going to give us information. And on top of that, this is the first time we are deploying not during the critical Mars window. We're actually going to go into kind of this, like, lollygagging phase just for a little bit until we hit that window. Can you kind of explain that?
So isn't that amazing? Like, usually when you think about the planets aligning, right? I mean, the greatest planet alignment was when we sent the Voyagers out in the 70s, right? All the planets have aligned. We've gone and done the grand voyage, right? But as you go to Mars, every 2 years a window opens up where you can make the most efficient trip to Mars. And all that means is that Earth and Mars are in the right spot of the trajectory or the right spot of their travel every year to where you can actually get from one to the other. So once every 2 years, we line up and we make this, you know, it's like, how many Mars missions can we get off the ground in that one window?
In that little window, yeah.
But one of the great things, one of the innovations that we're doing here with ESCAPADE today is we're actually going to send it outside of that window. We're going to send it outside of that window because we can put it into a very benign, safe parking orbit and let it sort of hang out, loiter, hang out near us here at Earth. So we can make some measurements about the space weather here around Earth, and we can prep for those spacecraft to then, with their own propulsion, get themselves out to Mars when that window opens. We always talk about how, you know, spacecraft are, frankly, the safest out in space, right? There aren't earthquakes or hurricanes or other things to worry about when they're out in space. And plus, we always love to have amazing data that come down from our spacecraft, almost no matter where they are.
Certainly. And what's interesting is we're sitting here in 2025, but this mission is really going to take, I mean, it's 5 years when you also count all the way to when we're going to get the data that starts to come back, right? So 2025, around 2027 is when ESCAPADE will actually be at Mars, and then it starts kind of being reoriented. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, we have a couple of different orbit scenarios with ESCAPADE because we have different questions, right? So one of the questions is, I want to be able to follow, have a leading following orientation of the two spacecraft, and I want to see how things are changing in time by doing that. But then we're also going to spread them out in longitude, so like east-west. And we're going to try and fly them somewhat side by side. But then we're going to ask questions that are like, okay, what's the inside the Martian atmosphere versus the outside? And there's a lot of dynamics and other things that we can do with these, really two very capable spacecraft that we're sending out to Mars.
And another cool thing about your job is you get to work with Dr. Nikki Fox. I was able to grab her into our webcast the other day.
Yes.
But today's a special day for her, right?
Yeah, it's a really special day. So, when we talk about having rockets and lighting candles and other things, this is her birthday. So we get to light a candle today. I think it's going to be really amazing to be able to,
quite the birthday candle.
Obviously, we're not going to blow it out until we get ESCAPADE up and moving, but quite the candle, and it's amazing.
Well, let's send it off to Dr. Nikki Fox. Happy birthday, Dr. Fox, and go NG2.
Yeah, excellent. Go New Glenn, go ESCAPADE, and we're just so jazzed to be here.
And we're so grateful to have you as a customer. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Heliophysicist, who knew? Not in the dictionary, and he gave us so much good information, of course, on why we're affected by essentially that solar weather. So right now, you are looking at New Glenn on the pad as we await the launch of NG2, L- about 20 minutes. But let's take it back over to our very own Eddie Seifert, who is with employees right here at Rocket Park at the best spot to watch New Glenn take to the skies. Eddie, how are things over there?
Hey Tabitha, hey Ariane, we are on top of the world. That's certainly what it feels like on this momentous occasion. And I changed up the view a little bit. Behind me, you see Lunar Plant 1. That's our newest building at Rocket Park. Now, Rocket Park sits on 250 acres of what used to be an orange grove. That was pre-2016. Since 2016, we've added 2.5 million square feet of production space. And our newest building, it's building the lunar landers that are going to help NASA and help Blue Origin return to the moon, this time to stay.
And Eddie, I think we talked about this a little bit on our last webcast. That building behind you is massive. It's hard to tell because you're elevated yourself, but maybe you can talk a little bit to the scale of that building, as well as its location relative to other facilities here at Rocket Park.
That's right, Ariane, if you're ever driving on Space Commerce Way, you'll see it. You'll see just how massive it is, right? If I'm standing on top of the world and that building's even taller, it's tall enough to house the 16-meter tall lunar lander, which is twice as big as the Mark 101 Pathfinder that we're going to launch to the moon later this year. When that lunar lander lands on the moon, it will be the largest lunar lander to have ever landed, and we're just going to get bigger from there. So we're very excited about Mark 1 later this year or early next year, and then Mark 2 to return humans to the moon, this time to stay. And you mentioned the co-location. So the fact that we can be co-located with New Glenn means that we can encapsulate that very large lander in the very large New Glenn fairing here on site, and then we can drive it out to our integration facility to essentially place it on top of the New Glenn vehicle, much like we have ESCAPADE today.
Eddie, thank you so much. Always so great to talk to Eddie because he can talk at hours and at length about anything to do with engines, with lunar, and of course, he's our hype man out there with everyone here at Rocket Park. Thank you again. If you didn't notice, on his shirt actually are little lunar landers as well. But right now, we're going to toss it over to New Glenn on the pad as we await the launch of NG2. And in about 30 seconds here, we're going to hear another go pull. So let's go ahead and listen in.
All right, so once again, they got that music going. I'd be I'd be really offended if this music was actually copyrighted, because man, it is monotonous. In any event, yeah, we've got a poll. Here we go. We're holding. Oh, wait a minute. Holding at 17:04. Are we holding that for the go no go? Holding at 17 minutes and 4 seconds. That's a weird place to hold. Unless they're going to go ahead and do the go no go at this point, or they may have encountered another issue. If they're going to put this thing on hold at 17 minutes, that's ugly. Let's see. All we can do is wait and see what happens here. Frustrating, but again, typical for this industry. Again, especially there's a question, how difficult is it to get a new rocket off the ground? It's really difficult. It's the second flight of the thing. The first one, it went quite well, actually. There wasn't as many hiccups as there have been with this one. But at the same time, you have something that is this new, and especially if you have your first ever paying customer on board, you're going to be so much more careful. I think Elon would press the button on a Starship if, he was in a situation like this, because as long as there's no paying customers on board, it doesn't matter as much if you blow it up. But this is a NASA customer. This is Blue Origin's chance to do something here, to make their presence felt. And so they're not going to take any risks. But nevertheless, it is frustrating to see yet another hold at 17 minutes and 4 seconds. That's a long time back to be putting this countdown on hold. So I think at this stage, they're probably making some decisions as to whether or not they're going to go at all. Yes, the booster will land. That's the plan. The Jacqueline barge is out at sea, and yeah, Blue Origin and SpaceX are the two major companies that have focused their business models on reusability. We haven't seen nearly as much of that out of Blue Origin, with the exception of the new Shepard suborbital rocket that has landed over and over again quite effectively, actually. But nevertheless, a suborbital rocket's a lot different than something that goes to orbit and has to land downrange on a barge. So yeah, and then the third company to be entering into the fray when it comes to reusing the booster is going to be Rocket Lab, with the Neutron, which unfortunately has now been pushed out for its debut to at least the first quarter of 2026. May get pushed out even further than that. And again, it's orders of difficulty tougher than the Electron rockets that they launch now, which, by the way, are not reusable. So reusability is a new business model, a new environment that Rocket Lab is moving into. They have actually recovered boosters, parafoil recovery of Electron boosters on a couple of occasions, but for the most part, they launch very small rockets, so their business model works with expendability. But with big rockets like this, if you can get reusability built into the business model, that is absolutely something that you want to have happen. So in any event, yeah, that's something, that's a good question. And something that a lot of the viewers may not even know about. A question was just asked about New Armstrong. That is the next rocket up. Those of you who are wondering, why did we call this thing New Glenn instead of New Neil or something like that? It's because the New Armstrong is the next level up, an even bigger rocket with bigger payload capabilities, again, with reusability built into it. So But New Armstrong, boy, that's a long ways down the pike. We haven't even seen any sort of CGI images.
And we're getting more information, but do stay with us. Keep your eyes on that screen because New Glenn is out on the pad and looking absolutely fantastic.
Okay, it may be looking fantastic, but we're not feeling fantastic about the fact that we're in a second hold here. Again, I don't want to be too tough. I've been tough on Blue Origin in the past. The time when I was really tough on them is when they hadn't made it to orbit yet, but they were competing for bids as if they had, as if they were a company just like SpaceX, just like United Launch Alliance, a company that had been to orbit many times. And so they want to be treated the same way. And frankly, they didn't deserve it. They just didn't. Until you actually get to orbit, until you actually have a successful orbital launch, you don't deserve to be treated like an orbital launch company. However, they've made it there now. Granted, only one rocket so far, but still, that was a very, very good flight. I mean, aside from the booster not landing, which everybody really anticipated that wasn't going to happen. But if this had just been a regular expendable rocket, that would have been a beautiful first flight, really flawless. So that being the case, that's where my views, just to be clear, for those of you who've been following me for a long time and why my views change on things. If somebody actually flies, if they manage to fly and they fly well, they fly without a whole lot of hiccups. For example, the SLS. SLS flew with virtually no flaws whatsoever. A few minor things with Orion, but if there had been human beings on the Orion at the time, they would have survived. If we had put astronauts in that Orion on that flight, we would have orbited the moon back in 2022 with human beings on board. Granted, I totally agree with the philosophy that we should have waited until we were ready. But nevertheless, yeah, SLS carried out a very effective, hold on. What do we got? All right, well, we got all this dang background music, which is really messing stuff up. So that being the case, it's SLS flew very, very well. As a matter of fact, it flew better than I thought it would. That entire mission went off almost without a hitch. Like I say, a few minor things with Orion, but overall, that was a hell of a first flight for SLS. Once somebody does that, once somebody actually accomplishes a flight, especially not just a flight to orbit, we're talking about a flight that circumnavigated the moon. Well, orbited the moon. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. It's not easy to get to the moon. It's very difficult to fly a human-rated spacecraft all the way out to the moon. If it was easy, we would have done it long before now. Okay, so we have the countdown restarted. It's been going for a while now, so here we go.
30 seconds. Now, coming up at the 17-minute mark, we will have that poll for terminal count. But Ariane, right now, I want to talk about how incredible this rocket is, how unique this rocket is. Can you kind of walk through for our viewers what makes this vehicle so unique?
Sure. So it's a two-stage vehicle. If you were able to tune in on Sunday, you saw a little bit of this explanation. But basically, when you talk about a two-stage vehicle, all that means for those of you that are not rocket nerds like us is that we're just stacking a rocket on top of a rocket. GS1, Glenn Stage 1, is the one on the bottom. It pushes Glenn Stage 2, the rocket on the top. And then on top of Glenn Stage 2, GS2, you see that shroud in there. That's the payload fairing. In the payload fairing today are our payloads, NASA's ESCAPADE, the 2 satellites. But what makes this rocket so special? We're going to land the first stage. The first stage is reusable. And what's cool about this first stage in particular is, we've had our New Shepard program, our suborbital program. We've learned so much from that rocket program. And there's actually some interesting similarities between the two, but also some differences. Up here, you see that we've put we call them now the forward fins at the top. Those help with the directional capability. New Shepard also has those. But this one, we also have the strakes. We want to be able to essentially fly this rocket back home and relight the engines. So it's a beautiful rocket. I cannot see it do its thing this first time in just a couple of minutes here.
I know. And at L minus 17 minutes, let's listen in for that go poll for terminal count.
Here we go again. Let's see if they can pull it off this time. By the way, they didn't mention one thing that was unique about this thing. It's just about all the features that you see on New Glenn, SpaceX has been doing for quite some time. To be fair to SpaceX, the only difference is that New Glenn, as far as fairing size is concerned, that's a big fairing. And if they manage to successfully deploy this payload today, then this will be the biggest reusable rocket that has ever deployed a payload out to space. In this case, an interplanetary payload, but it's definitely a lot bigger than the Falcon 9 series as far as the size of its fairing. It's a 7-meter fairing. The rocket itself is enormous. Of course, you know, it's hard to say that that we just launched the biggest or that we've successfully deployed a payload with the biggest reusable rocket until they actually reuse it, until they successfully land that booster. But if they manage to land the booster, then they're going to have huge bragging rights.
Go for terminal count. At L minus 15 minutes and 30 seconds, you are watching NG2 New Glenn on the pad. The booster so appropriately named Never Tell Me the Odds. Ariane, and a great day to fly.
A beautiful day to fly. Looks a lot better than it did on Sunday. We were just constantly fighting the Florida weather down here. It would be sunny, and then it would be rainstorm, lightning, and then it would be sunny again. It was a lot going on. But today is a beautiful, beautiful day to fly. So as you mentioned, we're now at L minus 15 minutes to go from New Glenn's second launch. And Tabitha, you recently had the chance to chat with our CEO, Dave Limp, about NG2, today's mission, and what this mission means for science and for our company.
Yeah, you can see Kent right there on your screen. Hey, guys, giving you lots of love right here from the desk. Also thinking about our guys in Huntsville, Alabama, Van Horn, Texas, and of course, right here in Rocket Park. Now, when I got to talk to Dave, not only did he share his message to the more than 10,000 employees here at Blue Origin, some of which you see on your screen, but also how important NG2 is to focus on for our customers. This is a really big moment for Blue Origin. Can you tell me how NG2 compares to NG1?
Yeah, I think NG, our first mission, there was lots to learn, and we did learn a lot, and unbelievably successful in that we made our goal, which was to get to orbit. This time we're going to be a little bit more ambitious, and we want to not only get to orbit, but we have our first paying customer this time with ESCAPADE and get them off to Mars. That's the first part of our goal, and then the second part of the goal is to land the booster out on Jacqueline. And if we don't, we have more over here in the factory that we're building, but we're going to give it our best shot.
Never Tell Me the Odds is pretty fitting for this booster. We are taking our second attempt at landing it for the first time. How are you going to feel if we land it?
Well, I certainly will not channel my inner C-3PO. I will be very ecstatic. I will be on pins and needles up to that point, but it would be a huge achievement for the team and for Blue. I think that we have a good chance, but if we don't, like I said, we can build more, but I will be over the moon if it happens.
Now, New Glenn is obviously just one of the many systems we have here, right? We have New Shepard, we have Lunar, we have In-Space Systems. How are all of those organizations really working together to further our ultimate goals?
Yeah, I think each component of what we do has a piece of trying to get millions of people to work and live in space, and they all have their individual. But as it relates to this particular mission, a huge amount of people have put work into it. Obviously, our engines team in building both the engines for the booster, the BE-4s, and the BE-3Us for the upper stage. We also have a huge amount of work by the obviously New Glenn team building this vehicle, but also New Shepard has been a pathfinder. So all our avionics astronauts fly on New Shepard first so that we can get a sense of what's going on there and get a sense what it's like to have flight-ready hardware. And so it takes a whole team, and it's a very big cross-functional effort across Blue.
You know, we have more than 10,000 employees here that are very excited about this moment. I'm one of them. What is your message to those who are going to be watching our webcast and be watching NG2 take to the skies?
Well, I think everybody will be a little bit on pins and needles, I'm sure. But I would say that this is a culmination of a lot of work from a lot of teams. It's not the end point of our journey. Obviously, we have a lot more rockets to make and a lot more customers to make happy as we move forward. But to the extent we're successful here, I hope everybody at Team Blue takes a pause, smiles a bit, celebrates, because it'll be a great achievement for us. And we'll take that deep breath, we'll sort of embrace the moment and then move on, because we have a lot of customers waiting for us to succeed. And there's nothing that makes you happier in business and in your life when you see the smile on customers' faces.
Did you ever think that you would be doing something like this in your career when you're watching your rockets launch? No?
No, not in a million years. I was very happy making Fire TVs and Echoes, but it is a boyhood dream, and so to be able to have it, I kind of pinch myself every day and just amazed that I get to wake up and help this and lead this amazing team of people build incredible technology like New Glenn.
I mean, and in reference to that, one of the first things they ask you when you come onto Blue Origin is, what is your first memory of space? What is your first memory of space?
Yeah, I have a lot of pictures. It turned out my 3rd, 4th, and 5th birthday, I have these old Polaroids of the cake, and they all have rockets on it. I was enamored with rockets as a kid, and never took the path where I thought I'd be running a rocket or a rocket company, but it turns out that it was very early in my life that I had a lot of love for it.
And we're so grateful to have you here at the helm. Dave, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Obviously, so great to get to talk to Dave, especially when we're kind of on the edge of this historic moment. But like he said, no matter what happens today, we have lots of hardware behind us already in the works. And it's a great day for Blue Origin. And we're so proud of everyone who's been a part of Team Blue up until this point.
Absolutely. And you can actually see the difference even between now, today and Sunday. They're getting ready to work on, looks like this one is going to be the next forward. We've got another forward. We've got another aft over here. So we've got a lot of rockets that are coming down the line. But we're just feeling pretty good about, okay, cautiously optimistic. We know how difficult this is. I'm going to lose my mind if we land this booster today. But as we mentioned,
I'll give you a Dream Chaser tenacity update here in just a second when we have a moment.
It's no easy undertaking. Now, our team, including myself, recently had the opportunity to spend a day at sea with our Jacqueline crew and learn more about the operation of landing and securing the booster. A live look at Jacqueline right there. Now, this is an operation and a moment that will change the course of Blue Origin history. Check it out.
The Jacqueline is the landing.
Okay, so this is copyrighted music here. Dream Chaser Tenacity is a spacecraft that's built and designed by a company called Sierra Space. It's sort of a mini space shuttle that has a second spacecraft attached to it called the oh my God, I'll tell you, it's been so long. The Shooting Star. And between the two, they deliver large amounts of cargo to space stations. The original idea, as a matter of fact, they were contracted to take many cargoes up to the International Space Station as they developed it into a vehicle that would eventually carry humans up to orbit and also service commercial space stations. Tenacity's run into problems lately. Tenacity will probably never be docking with the International Space Station because NASA wants to see it fly in orbit first. I think that NASA's gotten really concerned about this thing docking with the International Space Station for some damn reason. Now, why they're concerned about Dream Chaser doing that when the Starliner, the Boeing Starliner, encountered problem after problem after problem, and yet they still let the damn thing dock with the ISS. I guess that might just be an example of how Boeing wields so much more power than companies like Sierra Space when it comes to doing NASA doing their bidding. So yeah, it's frustrating that this has happened, and clearly things have not gone the way Sierra Space wanted them to go. Next year, the plan is to fly Dream Chaser into orbit and test it in orbit without it docking with anything, maybe doing simulated docking, that sort of thing. But when it comes right down to it, chances are, assuming Dream Chaser does ever get into service, it will be servicing commercial space stations, not the International Space Station. And one of the biggest problems that Sierra Space, in my opinion, has faced is they've been trying to design this damn thing on a shoestring budget. It's been really challenging trying to do that, simply because they didn't get the kind of money that the people who won the Commercial Crew project got. They got billions of dollars to develop their spacecraft. So in any event, will it launch next year? Yeah, I would say there's a decent chance that it will. Back to Blue Origin.
To bring a first stage back to Earth.
Well, let me just start with the basics. You have a 200-foot tall tower that has just been 120 kilometers up, and we're trying to hit a 150-foot by about 400-foot boat out there, and then the landing pad, as you see, is even smaller than that. Fun fact, the landing pad that you see there, the circle, is the same diameter as the landing pad for New Shepard. So to give you a sense, that's hard. So you've got this huge 200-foot tall tower that's coming in. We're going to slow it down with first a reentry burn, then we're going to do another burn to slow it down, and then we're just with
right,
3
go
engines,
ahead and mute
then
them
shut
for
it
a
down
second,
to just
guys.
1 engine.
Chicken Nugget, I'm not going to keep putting up with this nonsense, okay? Because what you're saying is complete BS. When it comes right down to it, the Van Allen belts, they're perfectly pierceable when it comes down to it. There are certain regions of the Van Allen belts that are definitely dangerous, but when it comes down to it, Apollo never stayed in the Van Allen belts for more than a few minutes. The radiation that they took at the time, if they had stayed in the Van Allen belts for a long time, that would have been dangerous. But otherwise, they got through them without any sort of difficulty, and they had to go back as well. Certainly, we want to do something about this in the long run to increase radiation protection, but the Van Allen belts were never an impenetrable barrier. Had they been something that prevented us from putting human beings on the surface of the moon, then why would the Soviets have not called us on it? They tracked Apollo 11 all the way to the moon. They tracked it landing. They had a spacecraft orbiting the moon at the time, confirming that we landed human beings on the moon. If we were trying to fake it, the Soviets would have caught us and they would have called us on it. There would have been no way or no reason in 1969 that the Soviet Union would have collaborated with the United States on faking the moon landing. Absolute nonsense. And I released a video on the topic some time ago. I'm sorry. I don't like that kind of nonsense in the chat room on this channel. I don't like anybody trying to mislead people when it comes to that particular topic. All right, guys, we're closing in on 3 minutes.
We're ticking down. In 3 minutes. We're going to launch this vehicle to space. We're going to put 2 satellites on their way to Mars, and we're going to try to land that booster for the first time. So exciting, and a big props to our launch control team that has managed to do a recycle on this vehicle. We want to fly today, Tabitha.
Oh, there are the cheers. Yes, the energy is palpable. Our launch director, Megan Lewis, She's in the control room now. I know this is an exciting moment from her. There we have employees from all across the United States. This is Huntsville, Alabama.
We're going to take another shot at this, guys. 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Of course,
GS1 pre-press
HQ,
start.
Ken Washington, we
Ken
see you.
Washington.
All right, rocket going through its last
GS2
motions
tilt
here,
pre-press start.
making sure the tanks are pressurized to their proper flight levels.
That's right.
A warm day in Florida, but that rocket is super cold
Nice
with
and
its chilled
cool.
in
T-minus 2
propellants. T-minus 2
Yeah,
minutes to
that's
go.
capacity charged.
LNG on the first stage, liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen on the second stage. New Glenn looking beautiful. And there you go.
Beachgoers with a great view.
All right, taking
What
another
makes
shot at this,
place
guys.
so special down here on the Space Coast. A day on the beach, but you can sit there
T-minus
because
90
our
seconds.
pad is so far south. A spectacular
Power
view
internal.
for everybody here in Cocoa Beach.
Now we've transitioned from ground power to the vehicle's own internal power. I mean, we are getting close. Aria, hold my hand.
Andrew,
I'm
yes.
getting
The answer
really
to your
excited.
question is yes.
There are those BE4s, 7 of them, ready to take New Glenn.
3.85 million pounds of thrust combined.
T-minus
60 seconds. Once again, guys,
Just
a
60
lot
seconds here
at
as
stake
mentioned
here
before.
for NASA, for Rocket Lab,
We will
obviously for
light
Blue
4
Origin,
of the engines,
for
then
the
3
future
of
of
the
lunar
engines, just
missions.
about a
This is the
second or
rocket
two
that's
off
going to be
for a
carrying the
staggered
Blue
start.
Moon
You'll
lander
see
to
the
the
big
moon
water
eventually.
deluge, and that's
Very
when you know
important
that
that
it's
we have a
game
good
on.
test here. Godspeed, Blue Origin. Godspeed,
hearing all
Rocket
those
Lab.
sounds.
Godspeed, NASA.
You hear the power up.
We certainly do.
And with that,
You'll see that water any second now.
let's
T-minus
turn it
30
over to
30
launch
seconds.
control. Let's go, New Glenn.
GS1 hydraulics internal.
Never tell me
GS1
the
at flight
odds.
level. GS2 at flight level.
Here we go, baby.
Autopilot enabled. T-minus 10.
10 seconds.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
There goes the deluge system.
2, 1.
Deluge going.
Lift up, effective.
Engines going, and liftoff. Liftoff of NG2. Holy
New Glenn
God.
has cleared the tower.
NG2 has cleared the tower and is on its way to space.
30 seconds into flight. Engine operating parameters continue to look good at full thrust. Body rate response to nominal. 40 seconds in.
Look at those engines, those diamond bursts, the diamond flame patterns from those BE4s.
50 seconds into flight. Continue to see good engine operating parameters. All set for
Magnificent so far.
We're coming up here on max Q, maximum dynamic
1 minute in
pressure. This is the hardest point on the vehicle when it comes to the
Body rate response.
pressures and
All right, we're up to coming up on maximum dynamic pressure. Critical moment here.
seeing good TDC control, good MR control. 1 minute, 15 seconds in. Now passing Mach 1, New Glenn is now supersonic.
Supersonic!
And we can hear the
1 minute, 30
roar here.
seconds. Engine operating parameters continue to look good at full thrust.
All right, about to go to max Q here.
Max Q, maximum dynamic pressure.
Max Q.
1
New
minute,
Glenn has
45
accomplished max Q.
All 7 V4 engines continue to look good. Body rate's nominal.
Looking good so far.
TDC. Acceleration profile nominal.
All 7 engines, boy, they are burning beautifully. Look at those. God, that is glorious looking.
One minute remaining in boost phase.
All right, 1 minute remaining in boost phase. You heard our team say
All right, we got 60 seconds left on the burn, and then there's going to be the separation, and then that booster's going to be coming back. It flies a little higher. For those of you who watch lots of Starship launches, it flies a little bit higher than Starship flights because it's going to be landing downrange. So this thing's going to go past the Kármán line and a substantial distance out into space before the separation occurs, because it's an interplanetary mission. You have to do that. You have to have the booster providing thrust for a long period of time before you can have a separation and a landing.
Engine cutoff.
All 7 engines still looking really good. All right, we're coming up on MECO, guys. And then separations. Critical moment. Critical moment. Butterflies in a lot of stomachs right now. MECO. We've got MECO. Now do we have separation? Do we have stage separation? Uh-oh. We have good stage separation.
Stage 2, both engine parameters look good.
We have good stage separation.
Oh, you see the 2 rockets there?
Body rate stamping out nicely.
The BE-7Us are working fine on the second stage from what we're hearing.
Both B3U engines
Once
look
again,
good.
it looks like they're tracking the booster.
Body rate responses look good. 3 minutes, 43 seconds into flight.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Both of the engines on the upper stage seem to be working fine. Here comes the booster, guys. They seem to be tracking the booster more than anything else. They don't do things the same way. Yep, okay, it's looking good. All right, so things are looking good on both stages so far. The upper stage is definitely in the correct trajectory. Both engines burning. Those are Hydrolox engines as opposed to Methalox. Different propellants on different stages. It's a pretty unique rocket when it comes to that.
Wow. All right, at 9 minutes is when we're expecting.
All right, guys, we are waiting to see what happens with the booster now.
Down on Jacqueline.
All right.
Approximately 2 minutes remaining in the GS1 coast.
So far, yep.
Thank you again, everybody, for joining us for NG2. So far, a nominal mission.
GS2 is now 320 kilometers downrange, traveling at 2.8 kilometers per second. Trajectory continues to look good on both stages.
Clean separation, clean fairing
right down the middle of the range
jettison.
track. Engine operating parameters on GS2 look good.
So far, we still have good trajectory. So
like
far,
our
this is a
GS2
good
is having a
flight.
beautiful
We have
ride.
clean separation.
The NASA ESCAPADE
We have the upper stage engines running just fine, the BE-7Us, and we have the BE-4s
And we've got
on the
GS1
primary stage.
coming down for landing
GS2 body
at
rate's
T
nominal.
plus
Waiting to see
9
what happens
minutes.
with that first stage. Okay, we're waiting for this landing attempt. This is a huge moment for Blue Origin.
1 minute
I'd
remaining
say
in
the
GS1
odds are
coast.
very much against them that they're going to be able to pull this off on the first try.
Continue to see good data coming down from both GS1 and GS2. Body rates on both stages look good. The E3U engines look good.
All right.
Everything looking good, looking nominal.
So far, this is a very good
Good
flight.
CVC
And
NMR
Ariane, this
control on
moment coming up
GS2.
is an important one.
Trajectory
It is.
continues to look good.
We're going to relight the BE-4 engines for the re-entry
Body rate's
burn.
nulling out on GS1. The exoturn is complete.
There you go. It's about 300,000 feet, less than 100
6 minutes,
kilometers
30
up there,
seconds into
coming
flight.
in for a landing on the Jacqueline, 375 miles offshore, waiting for the first time to land
And
Blue
standing by for
Origin's
GS1
New Glenn
ignition
booster
shortly.
on the Jacqueline.
All right, they're going to see whether or not these engines can relight on the first stage.
Continue to see body rates
But
on
so
GS1.
far, the second stage is still
That looks
accelerating.
great. We have our booster re-entry burn.
Okay.
All 3 engines.
Booster reentry burn seems to be going
matter
properly,
what
which means
happens
the engines have
we
relit.
have had a good day. This is further than we made
Yes,
it on
all the
NG1.
engines are relighting properly for the reentry
engine
burn.
ignition on GS1. Continue to see good data from GS1.
About a minute and a
GS2
half
engine parameters look good.
is when we would see.
Still looking good.
Never tell me the odds. Return to Earth.
All right, they completed the reentry burn.
We've got the strakes on the base of the booster.
Again,
which
now
give it
New
lift,
Glenn has
right?
made
Basically fly
more
this
progress with
booster.
this
Of
launch,
course,
far
we're
more
using the
progress
forward
than they did on the
pins
first
as
one
well, plus,
with this
some of our
attempted
reaction control system
landing.
to, as well as the gimbling.
And that thing flew a long ways up before there was stage separation. There's a difference there between the first stage on this and the first stage on Starship. This is more similar to Falcon 9 downrange landing attempts. It goes much further up into the up into the atmosphere, the very upper atmosphere, and officially into space.
8 minutes, 20 seconds.
All right, boy, that booster looks beautiful, and that trajectory looks good so far. This is something that is so routine for SpaceX. Here we go. We have a landing burn. We have a landing burn started for the booster. Here we go, baby. Down through the clouds. Is it going to make it? Is it going to make it? Here we go. We've got cameras functioning on the booster. Oh, my God. Here we go. I think it just hit the ocean. I think it just... No, wait. Happened. We just go. Oh, we gotta freeze. I think. Oh God, this is so close. Is it gonna do it? Is it gonna do it? Oh my God! Did they just pull this off? Did they just pull this off? I think they might have. Holy shit! Holy shit! New Glenn is on the Jacqueline. Successful landing on the Jacqueline. Oh my God! They did it! They did it! Oh my God! What an accomplishment! My head is spinning on this. Oh my God! What an astonishing accomplishment on only the second launch to bring the booster back. Blue Origin has now made history, becoming the second company, the second organization of any kind to successfully land a reusable booster on a downrange barge. Only SpaceX has ever done this before, and they've never landed a booster this big. This booster is substantially larger than any booster that SpaceX has landed on this barge. What a triumph for Blue Origin. Okay, so producer just made a clarification, and this is important here. The booster was off course. The booster was going to hit the ocean, and it corrected itself and steered itself back onto the Jacqueline at a very low altitude. Once again, this was a masterclass feat of engineering. Granted, this is something that SpaceX does on a regular basis, but still, for only the second flight, SpaceX never did that. They never managed to pull that off, successfully landing on a barge on only the second attempt. And again, this is a colossal booster, a huge booster. So the fact that they managed to put this down on this barge is an incredible accomplishment. And Blue Origin has made a statement today. Wow. Wow. Yeah, according to the telemetry, the overshoot was significant. Another one of my team members are talking to me. They missed it by a fair amount to begin with, and then still managed that correction. They should have plunged into the ocean. I mean, by all counts, that's what should have happened, and yet they managed to correct the flight and set this thing down on the Jacqueline. Just a triumphant moment. Triumphant moment for Blue Origin. Man, I'll tell you, my head is spinning because I did not expect this. Trying to land a reusable booster, especially a monster like this thing, on the Jacqueline out at sea, on a barge out at sea, and this thing still needs to get home. I'll tell you, it's going to be tricky taking this thing all the way back to the Cape, but nevertheless, they did successfully land it, and I'll tell you what a statement Blue Origin has made today. After all the years that I gave them hell, after all the years that I said that they didn't have the right to be competing with the big boys, to be suing for an opportunity to compete with the big guys on moon missions and military missions, man, at this point, I take it all back. I take it all back, Blue Origin. Wow. Just an incredible, incredible accomplishment. I mean, they put the damn thing down in the middle of the barge. Okay, folks. So at this stage in the flight, producer, can you clarify for me, is Blue Origin, what are they doing at this stage? Okay, they're still celebrating, as they should. Okay. Right. Right. Do we know how long it's going to be before they deploy Escapade? Yeah, that might be cool to see. Oh, are they sitting in orbit for a long time before they send it out? Right. Yeah, the fairing's been separated. Yeah, I do know that. Yeah, let me check just to be sure. Like I say, I want to make sure I catch as much of this as possible. But we definitely saw the big part. And bear with us, folks. We want to make sure that we show you everything here. The second stage is in a coast phase, but it's on the proper trajectory. We have successful operation of the engines. Everything looks nominal for that. So it appears that that they are going to be able to successfully deploy. Thank you very much, Cynic. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks so much for your support. Yeah, so it appears that that's going to go. God, look at how perfectly. I'm sorry, guys. I continue to marvel at how perfectly they put that damn thing down right in the middle of that barge. Yeah. Yeah. It's important to note, my producer's talking, and he's absolutely right about this. Blue Origin's actually been doing these kinds of landings for a very long time. They've been landing New Shepard, much smaller rocket, obviously, in suborbital, but they've been landing the first stage on New Shepard for a very long period of time. And they landed, and those things also autocorrect to a high degree of accuracy. So that being the case, yeah, they definitely have experience with these sorts of things, but for it to be an orbit, a re-entry from space with a landing burn, oh my God. I mean, this was orders of difficulty tougher than anything New Shepard has ever done. Just definitely took things to the next level. And that's why most people can't do this. That's why most companies don't even try. How long to deployment? All right. So guys, deployment of Escapade is going to take place in 16 and a half minutes. I have a feeling that I probably scared the hell out of my landlord with all of my all of my screaming there, but he's probably wondering what the hell's wrong with me up here. But in any event, we're going to hang around with you for the next 16 and a half minutes to payload deployment, because of course that's going to be an important moment. Need to make sure that all that goes well. I'll tell you, it's just epic. Again, it's, it's what yeah. Yeah, it's a very good point has just been made in terms of the fact that there are two major American launch providers who are now capable of recovering and reusing boosters. That is an important achievement and something that's going to have China taking note, because China is trying to reuse boosters as well, and they aren't at this level yet. They've made big advancements in many regards, but when it comes to reusability, the U.S. definitely has a big lead with SpaceX and now with Blue Origin. Wow, what an accomplishment. Never thought that Blue Origin would be able to pull this off on the second flight of their flagship rocket. I'm just, it's difficult to express how tough that was. Just amazing. So yeah, I mean that was closing in on the excitement level that I felt with the booster capture in the chopsticks last year, a little over a year ago now, for Starship. A similar level of excitement, similar level of, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. Although, the chopsticks were incredible feat with engineering. At the same time, incredible feat of landing a booster of this size on a barge out at sea. That takes a huge amount of skill as well, an amazing amount of engineering talent to be able to pull something like this off. So yeah, we're in a coast phase right now for the upper stage as it continues its orbit. I have a feeling there's going to be a second burn coming up to get the second stage into the proper trajectory to have a stage, the separation of the Escapade spacecraft. This bodes well for the Blue Manned Lander's orbital reef and anyone needing a large fairing heavy lift rocket. Very good point. Could VAST use New Glenn if Starship fails? VAST could, yes. The company that might have a harder time with it would be Starlab. Starlab is the company that's planning to launch an entire space station in one go, in one rocket. And only Starship, well, SLS too, has a large enough fairing in order to accommodate something as big as the Starlab. However, maybe if they scaled down the main habitation module a bit and such, and then launch them in two sections, first the habitation section and then the propulsion and life support, maybe that might work in two shots. But really, when it comes down to it, Starlab definitely needs to have Starship get into operation. The Starlab space station needs Starship. But that being the case, VAST, absolutely. VAST has modules that will definitely fit inside New Glenn. And also, of course, we're talking about the Orbital Reef Space Station. One of the most important parts of the Orbital Reef Space Station are sections that have 7-meter diameters that were designed specifically for New Glenn. So now the New Glenn has proven itself. definitely have a promising future for this rocket and what it's capable of doing. Again, given I mean, I'll tell you, this is it's quite an accomplishment, and really nothing that I expected. If you had asked me back when SN15 landed for the upper stage prototype landed for SpaceX for Starship, I would have definitely told you over and over and over again that Starship would be deploying payloads to orbit and payloads to other destinations before New Glenn would. I never thought that New Glenn would leapfrog Starship this way, but that's what's happened. Again, not to say that New Glenn's the same as Starship. It's not. It's still a much smaller rocket than Starship is, but in terms of its enormous 7-meter fairing size, it's definitely capable of carrying much larger, in terms of volume, larger cargoes to space than any other rocket that's currently in service, with the exception of the SLS, which costs billions of dollars to launch. So this is a huge step up in capability for the U.S. and for space flight in general. Is this demonstration? That's huge. It's a huge day, and again, what a turnaround for this company that struggled year after year after year to get to orbit. It just didn't seem that they were going to be able to really realistically compete against SpaceX at all. And today they have suddenly made a massive statement, and there's going to be a lot of people taking them really seriously from here on out. Wow. Dang. Okay. Yeah. A team member of mine said they would have been ecstatic if the thing had just managed to ditch in the water, like right next to the ship, or nearly hit it, or something along those lines. Yes, that would have been an incredible accomplishment, because the first time Falcon 9's booster got anywhere close to the barge, it just slammed into it. And Gwynne Shotwell, is a famous event in SpaceX history, jumped up and down excitedly and was so happy. And everybody's asking, what the hell are you so happy about? And she said, we hit the ship. We got back to the ship and actually hit our target, which told her that eventually they would be able to master that process. And boy, they did a lot more than just hit the ship here. Hell of a lot more. So yeah, that's pretty amazing. Okay, so here we should have another burn coming with this payload deployment. It's rather than coast, I'm pretty certain, they're going to have to do another burn in order to put this into the proper trajectory for an interplanetary flight. The ESCAPADE vessel ships themselves definitely don't have the propulsion capability, the propellant available to them to do much aside from and they rely heavily on the rocket, on the launch provider, in order to get them to their first destination, which is going to be Lagrange Point 2, LG2, which is a solar system parking lot of sorts, where the sun's gravity and the Earth's gravity balance one another out. And in those Lagrange points, that's a really good place to put things like space stations, space telescopes, that sort of thing. The James Webb Space Telescope, for example, sits in one of those Lagrange points because they're not going to drift anywhere. There's very little around that's going to have any sort of significant gravitational effect on them. And so they may drift a little bit, but not much. And any propellant on board will last for a considerable amount of time. in order to keep them stable. So what these spacecraft are going to do is they're going to go to that Lagrange point, and they're going to loiter in that location, or orbit in that location until Mars is in a better position. Again, this was not the original plan. The original plan was to launch last year when Mars was a lot closer, but New Glenn wasn't ready yet. It's one of the reasons that Rocket Lab and Blue Origin don't mention each other's names when they're talking about this mission, because I think there's got to be a lot of anger between the two companies, because Rocket Lab really rushed their delivery of their spacecraft. They had everybody working overtime in order to get those spacecraft out at the time that they did in 2024, only to discover that the New Glenn wasn't going to be able to do the job. And I think that led to some irritation on their part. And I think that irritation goes both ways now, and neither company mentions one another, which is really unfortunate. So in any event, let's go ahead and bring Blue Origin back. We're only a few minutes
everyone
away
I know
from
pretty
payload
excited
deployment.
about making mission number 1 check and mission number 2 coming up.
Tabitha, Ariane, I don't know where to start. First off, it was pandemonium here, and just a feeling of utmost pride and gratitude that we got to witness that. I had to step back because the party's ongoing. I can see it with my eyes. It's just years of hard work. You know, there was chants while we were doing the last session, and it was next stop moon. This is the beginning. Today is day 1. You know, at Blue Origin we say gradatum ferociter. This was a ferocious step.
Yeah, that's to put it lightly, a ferocious step. I think I was screaming and banging on the desk. Ariane, you were almost in tears. I know this moment for all of us, and we are here on TV just representing, as you said, the more than 10,000 employees. We get to peek into Huntsville and to Kent and into Van Horn, but everywhere across this country, I think people are celebrating, knowing that we've really made this big step that you've mentioned toward making space more accessible. And I know there's future generations watching right now. I know there's people from all around the world, as far as Brazil, watching right now. And those individuals have to know that we are setting up the future. That's the only way I know how to put it. We are setting up the future. Today was a monumental step for that.
Well, you see future generations. I actually got a photo from my husband who has my babies propped up and watching this. And I'll tell you, my 3-year-old, she just thinks that our rocket launches and lands.
Oh, yeah, that's all she's ever known.
That's all she has ever known. So to be able to show her this
Okay, just to be
live,
clear, guys, the second stage has now executed the necessary maneuver to deliver its payload to an interplanetary trajectory. You can see that altitude on your bottom right climbing very, very fast at this point. You probably are watching it kind of staying put, or perhaps even dropping a little bit, and that's simply because of the curvature of the Earth in its coast orbit. But now the engines burned, those BE-7s burned again to push it into a more aggressive trajectory heading towards spacecraft separation, and now it's closing in on 300 miles, and you're going to see that altitude continue to climb and climb and climb very quickly as it begins to head towards a payload separation and putting ESCAPADE on their way to Lagrange point 2.
Lucky, how many people would you imagine are up there with you?
Well, we were 500 plus.
Yep, there's the fairing.
More or less.
As you say, obviously it's dark in there.
And the energy never abated through the first.
Oh wait, no, the fairing's already separated. What am I talking about? So you're looking out into space right now.
Eddie, the spirits are high, and they're going to continue. I can't.
All right, here we go, guys. ESCAPADE will be separating here in just a moment. All right, this is the big moment for Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab is happy to see everything go the way it's gone up to this point, but now their spacecraft need to do the job. We need to have payload separation, and ESCAPADE needs to activate properly.
First, the
1 minute
blue
to go.
satellite's going to deploy. 30 seconds later, the gold will deploy. And then we also have the Viasat tech demonstrator at 38 minutes into launch that will also turn on.
Yes, you can follow along right
here we
here
go.
on your screen.
We're approaching the moment of
The
spacecraft
telemetry there at
separation.
the
You can
bottom.
see
In the
how
next
much the
40
altitude
seconds,
is increased in that short
is the
amount of
moment
time.
For mission objective number 2 will hopefully be coming
Now
to
coming
fruition.
up on 33 minutes into flight. We're standing by for spacecraft 1 set shortly. Vehicle body rates are remaining stable.
All
leading
right,
into the
so
separation
we got a
event.
moment of separation coming up here.
Standing by for spacecraft set. And we have good indication of ESCAPADE Blue
We
spacecraft
do
separation.
have payload separation confirmed. Go Blue.
ESCAPADE
Second
Blue
payload
is
coming
off.
up, as we mentioned. Just about a couple of seconds more here.
Not sure if the camera's showing that properly, but according to mission control, we have proper separation.
Oh, beautiful live shot.
All right,
from
so
over
I
700
think we're looking at
miles
spacecraft
in
2
space.
here.
And gold
But the
has
first one
separated.
has already separated successfully.
Congratulations, ESCAPADE. Both blue
All right,
and gold
spacecraft 2 is on its way. Blue and gold
deployed. We have
are on their way.
the booster,
Apparently,
and we have
again, we're not
successfully
seeing that very
deployed
clearly
both the
here on
blue
this
and
these
gold
views,
satellites
but we
for
have
ESCAPADE.
successful spacecraft separation of ESCAPADE. Both spacecraft are injected into the proper trajectory that's going to take them towards their eventual destination of Lagrange Point 2, where they're going to loiter for about a year or so, and then eventually make their way to Mars. This could not have gone better, guys.
And
This
so
could
there you
not
go.
have gone
Our
better.
automated,
This
robotic
was
vehicle,
the
to be very clear, we didn't clarify this earlier. There are
fantastic
no
launch that they
people
could have hoped for. They have
on
one
the Jacqueline
more
right now. It's just that
satellite to
robotic vehicle
deploy
that is
here.
going around the rocket, making sure that we definitely
We're safing the vehicle.
We're safing the vehicle and making sure that those landing legs are pegged down. The seas are nice and calm today. It was a rough ride the last couple of days.
At the bottom
out there.
right, you can
But of
see
course,
how
we wanna make sure
rapidly
our
that trajectory is
200-foot-tall
increasing
rocket
now
out there on the
second
Jacqueline
stage.
is nice, and there it goes. Is nice
Vehicle's
and
now turning
stable.
to the CCAM
And
attitude.
shortly after, we will of course have the Harvey Stone, which is the boat that has our team out
Okay,
there.
we've got
we will approach
about
the
3
Jacqueline,
more
and
minutes
we will
before
put our
the
team up
final
there as
satellite.
well.
And
As
frankly,
soon-
I'm
but as
embarrassed.
soon
I
as the
don't
rocket
know what that
is
one
stable, we want to
is.
make sure,
It's not
of
hasn't
course,
gotten
that
nearly
it's
as much
essentially neutralized,
press
make
as
sure the
others. I think that's a
propellants
test
are
satellite of some
are
kind
nice
from Blue
and
Origin,
stable,
but I'm not positive.
if not completely
systems all
purged from the
operating
system,
nominally.
I'll
as
try
well
to-
as have a
Continuing
stable
to
rocket
I'll try to
out
find
there.
out real
Safety
quick.
is number
Next
one. But
event is the
Tabitha,
CSP
we are
payload
2
turn on.
for 2 on today's mission. NG2, a historic day for New Glenn and Blue Origin.
I keep telling you, I'm speechless, and I really am. It has been such an epic day. In about, goodness, couple of minutes here, also that Viasat demonstrator will turn on. That's an exciting thing. That's a payload kind of hitching a ride with our friends at NASA. And it's just been so great to work with so many customers and to also show the world.
It's a technology demonstrator, a rideshare
We
communications
have a reusable
technology
booster,
demonstrator
and
from
this
Viasat.
is just the beginning.
That's
No, and
why
we
it's
said it
not
on
getting
the,
a
on the
lot
last webcast.
of coverage, just
We've
because
got-
it's not
we've
particularly
got
exciting.
NASA ESCAPADE, but of course
It's
there
not
are other
actually a Viasat
organizations,
satellite. It's a technology
UC
demonstrator
Berkeley,
from
Advanced
Viasat,
Space, Rocket
and they
Labs,
should be
Rocket Labs
deploying
that
that
are a
here
big
in just a
part
couple of
of
minutes.
that mission.
And I'll tell
But
you,
we've also
I mean,
got Viasat being one of the
mind-blowing.
foremost satellite operators in the world.
Mind-blowing.
And these organizations took a chance
Again,
on us.
the
They forget
first
it. It was a new
commercial
rocket. It had not flown
for
when we
Blue
signed with
Origin
them.
Atlanta.
This means a lot to us that you
this
have
level
put your
of
technology,
flawless
your babies in
performance
our hands
all
on
the
top
way
of this
through.
rocket. You,
I mean,
you trusted
again,
our team, you trusted our
SpaceX does
methods. We
this
got
all
you
the
there.
time,
And
the
we
Falcon
cannot
9,
wait to take
but
our
Blue
other
Origin
signed
has
customers as well as
shown
our
that
other
they can do
future
it
to be
too,
signed
and they can
customers
do it
reopen
with
for
a
business, baby,
bigger payload.
on New Glenn. A new day, a new chapter has just opened for, as we
Bigger
said, Blue Origin,
payload
but also the
in
space
terms
industry.
of
Would you
the
say a
size
new
of these
era?
satellites
Would
are
you
not
say a new
particularly
era?
large,
It's a new era.
but a
It's a new
7-meter
era.
fairing
And
can
as we
carry huge things up to space. This really opens up a lot of possibilities in terms of the types of cargoes, the types of things that can go into space. And once again, this is also the rocket that's going to be delivering the Blue Moon Mark 1, which is a cargo spacecraft for the moon. That's going to be going to the moon next year. And very possibly, I mean, huge statement here today that they're the folks who should be landing the first human beings on the surface of the moon in 50 years. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. But in terms of actually getting a spacecraft out to the moon, they've just demonstrated that they're capable of doing something very much like that today. And that's a huge statement to make. So we'll see how things go. But nevertheless, all I can say is look out, Elon. You've got some serious competition right now, which honestly, I don't think he minds terribly much. I think that that kind of competition, those sorts of incentives drive him. And that's a good thing for everybody. I'm a big believer in competition. Thanks so much for watching with me, for sharing this historic moment in space flight. I will be keeping you up to date, obviously, on all new developments that come up with Blue Origin, with New Glenn, with all other spaceflight news, and of course, with UFO news as well, including things like 3I Atlas, which we're hoping to get those photos back from the high-rise camera orbiting Mars, camera that's been providing photos every damn day from Mars without any hiccups. For some reason, they can provide us those photos without providing 3I Atlas photos that were taken over a month ago. And I think NASA has some explaining to do on all of that. And we will see if the photos explain something. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, stay angry about space.